But today, what I prepared for you guys is we're talking about transition. And there's a good reason for that. My story behind this was I was actually working with AI for a hot minute because I was having a blank white page. And my topic was transition. So I just said, give me a list of life stage and seasonal transitions. And it went bloop and gave me like 9 of them. And I realized over the last 5 years, I had done 7 of the 9 transitions. And I was like, oh, I can speak to this, right? And so I feel like I can strengthen all of you in this season. We noticed a trend in this group that a lot of us are going through some form of transition right now. And I really think that's across the board, especially with achievers, trailblazers, pioneers, people that want to leave a legacy, those kind of people. We have to do some things differently. And so I want to talk through transition because this is what I've always said. Transition is awkward. It's yucky. It's confusing. It's like, I don't know where I am. You can hear there's a tornado around me and all I see is confusion, right? It can be really uncomfortable too, because like, for instance, I'm going to go back like 10 years, but one remarkable transition in my life was when I was working, I was the administrator of Bible school, and I was coasting at my job. I had 125 students who all loved me. I had no conflict. I had no upheaval. I had no complaints whatsoever. I loved my job. And then the Lord said, I want you to go plant a church in Freeport, Illinois. And I'm like, what? And it was so interesting because during that time, there was a good few months that I stayed in that position without even telling anybody what the Lord had said to me, probably a good 6 months while I was looking into, Lord, what are you saying? And how do we do this? And until I was ready to move. But I noticed during that time, some of the things that I really loved, I suddenly didn't love. You feel like a sense of unease, like, I don't belong here anymore. I know that when God had me moving to California, I had 7 words over, I think it was 4 years. It was every time I would come to California, the Lord would give me a direct word. The first time he said, where you put your feet is now yours and your authority. And that was California. I'm like, I got authority in California. And I was like, that's crazy. But the last one was so wild. It was this feeling. I was on the airplane riding home when I arrived in California and I was living in Illinois. When I landed, he said, welcome home, honey. And then when I arrived back into Illinois, it was the weirdest thing ever. I was sitting on the plane and I was totally cuddled in, just, reading a book. I was comfortable. I wasn't thinking about anything but reading the book. And we were just getting ready to land. And the minute the wheels landed on the tarmac, something came over me that I was literally crying my eyes out, like unstoppable crying. And I'm like, Lord, why am I crying? This is so confusing. And he said, it's because you don't belong here anymore. And that was the moment I knew it was time to move across the country and take a lot of risks. And we're still facing those risks today. But, when you're going through transition, you might feel a sense of unease. You might question even long time held beliefs. I'm going through a few of those right now. It's like, why did I believe that? And how should I believe now? What do I need to believe in this season? I might feel disconnected from my surroundings. And I might be, one way you can know, and you can know that you're going, is you want to look for patterns of change. Notice your interests have shifted. All of a sudden I'm like, I'm totally disengaged, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you make a change though. When you're in transition, it's not about quick change. It's actually to walk through that season of being uncomfortable and allowing the Lord to position you and align you and knowing the right moment to step into that season. If you walk into a season too early, it can really cause a lot of upheaval. And then, people are like mad at God because it didn't work out right. But really it was that we jumped ahead of God. And he was just letting us know to start, because he's so kind. He makes change, like he's trying to do good change management with us a lot of times. He's not like a car crash kind of God. He likes to let us kind of feel our way around and be certain of our change. And so it's really important that you acknowledge your emotions and give yourself grace during that time, but also remember that your feelings and emotions are indicators, not drivers. They're not to determine your behavior or your action. Your feelings, it's very, very important to know. We're body, soul, and spirit, right? And so when my body is sick, I manifest symptoms like a stuffy nose, a headache, a sore throat, a fever, all that. And what that's doing is my body is telling me that, hey, I need you to take care of me. In the same way, our feelings and our emotions are indicators, not drivers. They don't make our decisions for us, but they're indicators that our soul needs some attention. And so when I'm having feelings like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of a tornado and nothing makes sense and it's all so confusing and I'm uncomfortable and I really don't care about X, Y, and Z that I used to care about. And it's just really like, I don't understand. It's to say, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable in a stage of transition. And now I get to explore and find, and it's all this incredible invitation to a grand adventure. God, I actually had one person say to me once, we're always in a season, and they're frustrated. And I'm like, yes, you're always in a season. The world is always in a season. Winter, spring, summer, fall. We're always in a season, and so are you. And so when we're in a transition season, it's so important not to make rash decisions. I always do it in the way of like, until I'm certain of an instruction the Lord has given me, I keep doing what I was doing. I kept working at that Bible school. I kept living in Illinois. I kept going until I had a real word, like a real sure word. Like when I completely changed careers, I was asking God, I'm like, I really cannot walk away from what I'm doing unless you put this in black and white. And it was so funny because I got a piece of paper with black ink on white paper the very next day that was telling me it was time to switch. So it's really easy to be hard on ourselves during that time, isn't it? Sometimes we need to start with this emotional strength because so many leaders are so angry and hurt and upset. And why are they going through that? Well, because they're getting a measure of success. They're rising to the top. And then they didn't have the emotional strength and the character and integrity to maintain that. And then all of a sudden, there's an utter blast of tragedy that ensues. You all have seen it. You all can think of leaders that have totally just lost it. And so I want you to understand, I'm going to give you some practical things because honestly, guys, be totally transformed by the renewing of your mind is the word of the season. Be totally transformed by the renewing of your mind. But the pressure produces progress. And sometimes when we're in pressure, we will navigate that in a way that is confusing. And so mindsets, growth mindsets, view those challenges as opportunities to learn. I always say, you know what? If you succeed, it's an opportunity to celebrate. If you fail, it's an opportunity to learn. And so failure should be exciting to you because if you have never failed, you've never truly taken a risk. And so I congratulate you for truly taking a risk. Resilience. You got to stay adaptable and resilient in the face of setbacks. Oops, bummer. I got to go back here to go back here, right? But it's that, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. And so our mindset as we go into transition, as we walk through what we're walking through, we're not victims to our feelings. We don't need to procrastinate because, we just not feeling it today. I see so much like I'm not feeling the grace. I have so done this. Oh my gosh. I've done this recently. It's like, I'm just not feeling it. And so God must not want me to do it. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes he's saying pressure produces progress. And he's allowing pressure in our life so that we can actually expand our capacity and go into the new realms of authority that he has for us. It's amazing life if we can wrap our heads around transition is for a purpose. Find purpose for your pain and you'll walk into joy in the midst of whatever you're going through. And honestly, you're in the right place. Tip and trick, seek mentorship. Guys, we're here. You've got 3 coaches in the room. We've got coach plans that can walk you through every step of the way. Find community here where you connect with one another and you're able to navigate these really weird, awkward places. Amanda, she like totally rocked my world the other day because I was she just started to make clarity where there's confusion. We all need people to step into our lives that will speak in, encourage us, empower us, press us forward, that will help us find clarity in the midst of the confusion. Even somebody say, hey, you're in transition. Then you're like, oh, I got a box for that. I understand. So to navigate the transitions, you got to be able to acknowledge your emotions, recognize where you are. You're in transition. Congratulations. You have a great adventure on your hands. And adopt those empowering mindsets that you can walk through it victoriously, because who wants to be like Moses? He kind of walked around the mountain and kind of missed some stuff. And so he got to walk around the mountain for 40 years when he could have done it in like 4 hours. Got to learn what we got to learn. And I, for one, love the community that will help me learn the first time, not the 40th time. Encouragement. Listen, transitions are powerful opportunities for growth. It's up to us to embrace them with courage and positivity. And so I want to release you guys to breakout rooms for a little bit where you guys can talk a little bit. What is one transition you're currently experiencing? And what mindset shift do you think you need to navigate it more effectively? All right. So what is one transition you're currently experiencing? And what mindset shift do you think you need to navigate it more efficiently?